I'm doing a series of videos on leadership practices and characteristics. This one's titled Lead, Plan, Do, Evaluate. And you'll hear me refer to plan, do, evaluate in a couple of other videos. You'll also, if you have had a chance to look at the book I wrote last year called 5 at a Time, which is a leadership self-help guide to help you plan your life 5 years at a time and your career 5 years at a time. You'll also see plan, do, evaluate as a process that's discussed in that book, and it's applicable to life planning as well as business planning. The problem occurs when small functional management groups, which I oftentimes refer to as organizational chunks, don't complete the circle in a timely fashion and put a reasonable amount of weight on each of the elements. So plan, do is not what I'm talking about. Planning is critical, and good leaders are good planners and guide their organization in good planning practices. Planning is critical in this iterative circle that we're talking about. It's the first piece of plan, do, evaluate, and maybe deserves about 40% of the weight. But doing is also important. It's the next critical task in the circle, and I give it a comparable weight of 40%. That leaves evaluation or analysis as the third key element with a weight of 20%, but not to be overlooked. You add them all up and you get 100% of the work of your organization, and each of the small functional management groups make up that contribution. Plan, do, evaluate, plan, do, evaluate. It's iterative, and you should look at all of your work processes through the lens of plan, do, evaluate. At least do it formally once a month, but you can do it informally, literally every day. Many business processes are iterative. Plan, do, evaluate happens to be one of those. But you can think of product design and development, where the best customer to develop something new for is the customer that you already have. Product design development. And you want the customer's help with that design change in the beginning and all the way through the iterative process. Cash management is another iterative process. Cash out for materials and personnel, cash in for sales of goods and services, cash out for marketing and cash management, and the cash management cycle starts all over again. Just like plan, do, evaluate, cash management is an iterative process. Plan, do, evaluate, iterative thinking is critical as a business leader or a team leader. Behind each word is some heavy lifting. Let's start with plan. We need information, we need market research, competitive analysis, technical assessment, and all kinds of marketing parameters, including the problem we're trying to solve and the uniqueness of our solution. We're going to use all 4 planning concepts: strategic, tactical, operational, and contingency. And next we're going to look at how we execute these different plans. What's the organization we need to do that? How do we engage the customer? And what do the sales funnels look like? Finally, evaluate. Measure results, strengths and weaknesses. Is there rework required of the product or services? And how do we sustain our business model? Or does it need adjustment? Problem identified, problem solved, and we iterate over and over again as we continue to make continuous improvement. Plan, do, evaluate. If you're interested in more information on leadership practices and characteristics such as plan, do, evaluate, feel free to make contact with me at Lienhart Leadership Consulting, lienhartb@yahoo.com,